Hey everybody, long time no see. It's Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with some Crusader Kings 3 for you. Now, I know it's been a little while since I've uploaded last. I don't want to really get into what's been going on in the meantime, at least not here. So, if you're curious, feel free to reach out in the Discord. But I'd rather just kind of dive into this particular game, which is obviously Crusader Kings 3. We've played a ton of Crusader Kings 2 on the channel in times past. And it's something I've really been enjoying lately. It took me a while to get to this game, just because for a long time I did not have time to really play anything. Even still, I don't have a ton of time, but hoping that at least I have a little bit of time to play this consistently, and I figured if I have the ability to do that, I may as well share it with you guys. But obviously Crusader Kings is something we've had a lot of fun with before, and I think I kind of prefer Crusader Kings 3 to Crusader Kings 2. There's a lot more, I feel like, roleplay ability, especially with the DLCs. I don't have all of them, but I have most of them. And it definitely seems to lend itself more to like the individual character stories. And maybe less for the overall realm. Let me know what you guys think. But so far I've really been enjoying it. And I thought it might be fun to jump in as one of my favorite characters from Crusader Kings 2. I haven't played as him yet in Crusader Kings 3, but it's a very interesting scenario. And that is, if you couldn't guess already, Jarl Rurikid of Homeguard. And so for a little bit of historical background, he is basically the founder of the, well, maybe not like intentionally, but he's often credited as sort of the person that instigated what became the Rus culture, which of course is what eventually became like the Kievan Rus, and then eventually spawned a lot of the sort of modern cultures and states that are in this area of like Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, etc. And it's a really unique start. Well, I say unique, but there's another character that's basically identical down here. But as far as relative to the rest of the campaign map, it's pretty unique because what you have is this Viking ruler who's a really damn good character by all accounts. And he is ruling over largely a Russian and Vepsian, so basically a combination of Baltic and Finnic, but not at all Norse subjects, let's call them. We also have multiple faiths going on here, so on the west side of this river, it's primarily Slovenskia Pravda, which is like a Slavic paganism. And then on the east bank, we have Ukonusko, which is like a Finnish paganism. And so we are, of course, the Asatru faith, which is like the default Norse one. And therefore, this is just one giant melting pot of a couple different cultures, a couple different faiths, and our job is basically to try to mold these all together. And I think it is a great scenario to really explore the hybridization mechanics in Crusader Kings 3, which is something I haven't ever really played with. I've, to be completely honest, I'm still relatively new to the game. This is maybe my third or fourth campaign, so I'm familiar enough with the mechanics where I'm not going to like stumble through literally everything we need to do. And of course, I put a lot of hours into Crusader Kings 2, but I'm far from a pro at that game. Anyways, there's still a lot of things that are new to me where I understand the mechanics, but I haven't really explored what they can do. The reason I think this is a great scenario for that, besides all the reasons I just gave, is because the Norse start with this malleable invaders tradition. And so what this does is it significantly reduces all the barriers of entry to the hybridization mechanic. We have less culture acceptance requirements. We have a lower prestige cost to actually execute it. And a lower cost to convert to local cultures. So this is basically like a coupon to hybridization, which would be really cool. And I think in order to be successful in this area, we will need to hybridize, because if we look at the terrain map, here we go. We are in entirely taiga. There's a little bit of hills here, but everything else in our territory, aside from these plains along the coast, is all taiga. And if we go west, it's all forest. If we go east, it's more taiga. More taiga. Eventually, we'll hit plains if we go far enough south. Oh, there's some wetlands too. But as you can see, if we conquer in any direction, there's a good chance we're still going to be in a forest or taiga. So we currently don't have any adaptation for that, but a lot of the local cultures do. Unfortunately, not any of the ones that are currently in my kingdom, though. But if we look at like the Lithuanians, for example, they have a trait called Forest Wardens. This gives them a unique man-at-arms in the form of an archer that gets some bonuses in both forest and taiga. It also gives them a bunch of bonuses to certain buildings, like the forestry line. You get Forest Fighter Commander traits more frequently, increased hunt success chances, lower danger in these areas, faster development growth, and lower construction costs. So just benefits across the board for being in a forest. So obviously this is something that I think will be really critical for us. Sacred Groves is another interesting one because we gain piety for building in holdings that are forest or taiga, and all of them are forest or taiga. We also gain additional holding taxes in those areas, so just straight benefits as well. Obviously a little bit less critical than this one, but still something that would really help us potentially. And so there's a few cultures in this area that have either one or both of those, and it's probably worth trying to hybridize with them. I bring up the Lithuanians because we start with 10% cultural acceptance already out of the gate. And because of that malleable invaders tradition, we only need 20% in order to actually hybridize. The only other requirement we have to meet is that we have to have at least one holding of that culture. But as you can imagine, if we conquer west, it's probably not going to be, like, we're literally one province or holding removed from this Lithuanian faction. So probably not long until we have some Lithuanians here. These guys are Latgalian, who have both as well. And they're literally adjacent to us, so that's another option. Another one that we need to look at doing, just because it is occupying so much of the land that we currently hold and will hold, is the Russian culture. Now, the Russian culture, as we think of it now, would not have existed yet. It would have been some Proto-Slavic culture. They're just referring to it as Russian here out of convenience. But the Russian culture did not come till much, much later. They have some unique stuff, though. The Druzina, for example. It's a unique man-at-arms unit. Now, we have plenty of melee infantry already that we can access, and some of them I think are quite better than this one. So not something I'm super concerned about, but it is interesting to think about. And another one that I've been curious about, because I've never played as a culture that has this, but this Mendicant Mystics tradition, which gives wise men some unique stuff. Makes them more common, it gives them more bonuses, and it also gives the chance that they might appear in court and like do something, which I think might spice up this campaign a little bit. And speaking of, we are running several mods for this, one of which is going to add some additional like witchcraft and magical elements, let's call it. So if I go to, I guess we can do this now as we choose a lifestyle for this character. But if I go here, you can see that there is a dedicated magic tree. I haven't played with this yet, and we're not going to make this king a wizard, for example, but we might have some witchcraft going on in our faction. And so I don't think they do anything like overt. I don't believe you're throwing fireballs at anybody, but you can gain like a boon of protection that makes you harder to, assassinate, for example. You can gain insights that have you gain experience or avoid schemes more easily. And so it's more subtle. It looks like we can cast curses, though. But yeah, as far as I know, oh, Power Strike, that might be a little bit overt. Demonic Ritual. Yeah, so the reason I picked this particular mod is because it sounded like most of the things it added were very low fantasy. So something that you might find in like the Game of Thrones TV show, but not necessarily like really high fantasy where you've got a wizard in a wizard hat with a staff blazing fireballs and things like that. More subtle kind of mysticism type of stuff, which I think would be a lot of fun. We're also running a mod that adds additional learning focuses for prowess and leadership, because these are stats that every character has. So prowess is basically like the 6th flavor of stat here. It doesn't get its own color for whatever reason, but here it's orange, and I mean, it really should be, right? So we have the original 5 plus prowess, and then the leadership one is mostly focused on, I believe, things related to, well, obviously like prestige, renown, but also court grandeur and legitimacy. So as a ruler, legitimacy is a big deal. And if you're not ranking up to expectation, so our current expectation, I think, is 2, based on where this little tick mark is. And you can see we're a little bit past that. But if we were below it, our vassals would make more effort to try to replace us because they do not see us as legitimate enough. So that's something that we constantly have to be aware of as well. Anyways, let's start getting things set up here because there's a lot we have to do. And I'd like to get the clock running as soon as possible. So we have some perks already, and they're already allocated, as you saw. So unless I want to reset them at the cost of stress, I'm not going to do that. But we have the option to. I'm actually going to go learning focus here. The reason for that is primarily because I want the development bonus. Our entire territory is, I think, 0 development. Yeah. So all this maroonish kind of color is 0, and then there's a little bit of development here, like 1 or 2, but we're starting off pretty rough. So anything we can do to help in that regard is going to be important. The other reason is once we branch our own culture off, I would like to advance through as many cultural fascinations, or basically researches, as possible. And scientific will give us a 20% bonus to that, and we only have to put 1 perk in that tree. I'd also like to maybe aim for whole of body to keep him around as long as possible, because he's a really strong character. We have a pretty decent heir, but if we could stick as Rurikid for a good little while, that'd be cool too. And then if we have any additional children with our current wife, making them a little bit better through pedagogy would be ideal. So let's grab the development. And we don't have any perks to spend. Again, these were already allocated, so we have Stalwart Leader and then these ones here. Most of the perks in this particular tree are going to obviously focus on individual combat or just general army stuff. There's a lot of overlap between this one and the martial tree, but this one has more opportunities to increase your prowess, and I think it focuses a little bit more on knights than general armies, but I could be wrong. It does definitely overlap with this a good bit. We also need a court physician. Let's start the search for that right now. We have 1 more. Oh, I should probably do this right now too. Yeah, let's up our tribal authority, because if we want to go feudal at any point, we have to reach 4, so we may as well start this now, because I think there's a cooldown between each one that we can advance. There's certain other requirements too, but one of them is waiting a particular period of time, so may as well do it right out of the gate. Domain limit. So I currently hold 6. I'm only allowed to have 5. We have 1, 2. So Novgorod, Rusa, Luki, Valdai, Tikvin, and Beluzero. Beluzero, I believe, is the smallest, and it's obviously the most remote, so it's probably going to be the one I get rid of. We're going to want to give this to a culture that we want to hybridize with. And yeah, I mean, the two best choices, at least in terms of stats, are Russian. So that's one of the cultures. This guy's pretty good all around, actually. Brave, compassionate, and arbitrary. So nothing that would make him a bad vassal, though like something like trusting would be nice. And then it looks like his clan is just him and his daughter, so I don't have to worry about weird inheritance things happening. That's also nice. Okay, yeah, you seem like a pretty good choice. So we'll grant you... We're also going to steal some of these Chancellor. So we'll grant you the title of Beluzero. Cool. And let me see. Our son is unmarried. We haven't taken a look at our son yet, or our family for that matter, so let me do that quickly. So Rurik is 37. We have one child. We're married to the High Chiefess Ingrid, Bjorn's daughter. She's actually the daughter of Bjorn Ironside. So interesting little link there. She's allied to me. I'm not allied to him, though, which is kind of unfortunate. I'm curious, can we negotiate? Oh, sorry. I forgot. He's not. I guess that brings up an interesting point. So he is not her son. He is actually the same age as her, which is very awkward. So he is actually a legitimized bastard, but he did inherit our quick trait. So he's arrogant, calm, stubborn, a crafty commander, mastermind philosopher, legitimized bastard, and he is quick. But he is not the son of our current wife, and you can see that they actually don't know who the mother is. Or at least it's not documented here. So I wanted to see, can we negotiate an alliance with you? We can. And he'll accept, yeah. Okay, we should probably do that. Why wouldn't we want him on our side? Though we're actually a more powerful ruler than him right now. We hold more land, and because we start with Rurik's host, we have a extra 1,000 men, basically. So we're up over 3,000 total. Anywho, all that to say that we should probably find you a spouse. Ideally... The one thing is I might not choose one right now because our realm or our diplomatic range is really small, and in just a few years even it will expand enough where we'll have more options. Right now you can see that there's only a handful of potential alliances or claimants that we can choose from, and almost basically I guess it's more than, I was gonna say like 1 or 2 mouse wheel scrolls. It's more like 4 or 5, but we're hitting lowborn already. And if I'm going to marry a lowborn, I'd prefer it be somebody with a congenital trait. The issue with that is he's going to take a huge prestige hit for marrying somebody lowborn. And I don't know if it carries over to his rule, but he might also take a legitimacy hit. I know that if Rurik, for example, as the ruler married a lowborn, we would immediately take, I think it's like a 300 legitimacy penalty, which is enough to take him from where he is now to 0. Like, it will bottom you out. So you got to be careful about that. Oh, she's pretty good, though. I'm actually going to pin her. Come back to that later. And yeah, she's young too, so we've got a little bit of time. So there's some options, clearly. She's intelligent, which is nice. So we're starting out on tier 2 rather than tier 1. But, yeah, all in all, I think I want to kind of bide my time a little bit until we open up our diplomatic range a little bit more. While I'm in here, I'm going to disband one of these units. The pikemen are kind of useless because they're meant to counter cavalry, and you're not going to find cavalry in this part of the world. So that will up our prestige per month a little bit, which helps. Is there any other setup we need to do? Yeah, so we have a bunch of members of our court, and none of them are married, so we're going to want to find them partners. Otherwise, a lot of them will just die, and then our court shrinks. What I like to do is try to find, for men, I try to find them a wife that has a congenital trait, because in our particular culture and religion, women can't hold very many positions in court. And so the best they can really do for you is to contribute good traits. to whatever children they have. Of course, there's exceptions to that, spy master, and I think our religious, this religious post can be held by women too, so basically 2 of the 5, I should say. But they can't be direct vassals unless through inheritance. You cannot give a woman land in our current culture. They can't be knights except for a very small exception. I think through performative honor, this one, a woman can make a decision, like one of these decisions, to try to become a shield maiden. She basically has to show that she's strong enough to do it. But there's no way to induce a character to do that. So if I'm playing as a woman, I could have her make that choice, but I cannot, as like Rurik, find a strong female character and decide I want her to be a knight. There's no way for me to do that. So there's no point in bringing in female characters with high prowess, for example, because they're just not going to make that decision. I mean, maybe it happens one time out of 100 that the AI decides to do it, but I've never seen it happen, and so I'm not going to rely on it being a thing that happens. Therefore, congenital traits, usually the way to go. And that way, if we start having our court intermarry with each other, we have a lot of traits going on. Obviously, probably not going to be marrying our ruler to court members, but some of our second, third, fourth children could be marrying them, especially if we're mostly interested in farming those traits. So I'm going to do that real quick. For the women, I like to find characters that can either serve council positions if our vassals are weak in a particular area, or really, really high prowess knights. So Katri is our only female courtier, so this is going to be basically the only elite knight that we get to choose. Hakon is 30 prowess, so immediately I think more than twice as good as our current best. The other 2 here are not quite as strong. I mean, 28's still, you know, incredible. And you are 26, but you have the hail trait, which is kind of cool. I'm kind of leaning toward Hakon just because she doesn't have any congenital traits, and so even if we brought Toasty, I'm just gonna call him Toasty, even if it might be Toasty with the way that O is accented, but I'm gonna go Toasty. There's only a 25% chance that their children inherit that trait, so I'm probably better off like pinning him for later. And if we can find a female character with hail or better and match her up with him, then there's a basically guarantee that they inherit some level of that trait. But it's a little bit wasted on her currently. So I think the better choice is probably Hakon, I'll say. Just we may as well take the highest prowess because there's not a lot either going to do in terms of inheritance. Therefore, we may as well just get the best character right now. Make sure that's matrilineal. Lock that in. Jumping over to our champions really quick. I noticed that our 2 guests would be our 2 best knights if we had them join us. So I'm curious if we recruit them to court. It's actually pretty cheap. 11 gold is not really significant at all. So I'm going to do that. And yeah, you're only 5. Are you kidding me? Take both of those. We're going to force them to be knights because they don't have any other role for us. The rest of these guys will have to wait and see if they still hold important court positions later. I'm probably not going to allow them to be knights. What about you? How much do you cost? 10? Let me see. 3 gold? Yeah. Are you joking? Helgi should not be a knight. And you know what? You guys are just going to get yourselves killed as well, so I'm just going to disallow that now. Okay, so that gives me more people I have to find spouses for. Alright, I think that's everybody. Let's roll the clock a little bit here just to have all those take effect. And then we're going to sort out our court quickly here. Oh, cool. We got the alliance. Nice. Is that everybody? I think so. Oh, no, they're still trickling in. And then I guess we'll wrap this up with choosing our court position here. Aptitude's average. 50 gold is a lot for somebody who's average. She's 15 gold, but poor. Only a novice physician. This guy's pretty high prowess, though. Can I can't invite him to court. I'm going to say that they both fail to impress me. And then I'm just going to invite this guy to court as like a knight, because he's pretty good. Can we find you a spouse while we're at it? How about one with hail or something? Okay, well that's not an option, but she'll have to do. Alright, I think that's all the marriages other than the one we obviously just did. But we can now look at our council. He's pretty garbage. A 3 is hard to do worse than. So let's maybe see about replacing him. I know Helgi is really high. 18. But I'm not seeing him as an option here. Ironically, the best alternative for this guy is the person I married to him, which is her. But yeah, it's not showing Helgi, and I'm not really sure what the qualifications are for this position. I wish it would tell you, but it looks like they're all lowborn. So maybe the fact that he's highborn means that he can't hold it. But she's also really good, so it'd be a nice choice. I'd like him to stay on our court in some capacity. And that's the only one where I don't think there's a vassal competing. But, I mean, what are you going to do? He's not allowed to do it. So, Asa it is then. And then immediately, I'm probably going to start converting. Was there any point? Because I ultimately plan on converting to Orthodoxy and then kind of reforming our own Orthodoxy. And so I don't know if there's a reason to convert them to a Satru in the meantime. Huh. Well, we'll think about it. As far as Chancellor goes, is our son... Oh, actually, this guy's better. And a vassal. But he might be our best steward, so let's see. Yeah, he is. Steward, in my mind, is more important. You're an 11. But he's also 11, and I don't think he'd be able to hold anything else. I think I'd rather have a better steward than a chancellor, if I'm being honest. How about marshal? You're actually the best candidate for that job, so let's swap them. Because I want you to be the marshal. And you're probably not the best spy master, if I had to guess. This guy's actually decent. Helgi's decent, but I don't know if... Like, I don't know if holding a spy master position gains him anything. I kind of like having my heir on the court because I think them holding the chancellor position gains them prestige over time. I don't know if spy master also is going to do that. I know, like, steward, for example, like if you, the player character, are somebody's steward, you gain an extra gold per monthly income. And I think chancellor is prestige. Marshal, I'm not sure. And spy master, I have absolutely no idea. Okay. Well, I guess it's a moot point if there's not a better chancellor. And the question is, do I want you to be a steward or a chancellor then? I think I'd rather have him as the steward, because the stewardship stuff is going to be more important. So let's assign you. Or actually, I got to do this carefully. Are you... I could make him the spy master. He's not the worst. I'm thinking, let's leave the son where he is. You're going to move over to spy master, so let's swap these two. Sort by that. Yeah, I mean, you're far from the best, but I'm not going to be doing a lot of active scheming, more just passive defending against schemes. I mean, and even that's not the worst there if we wanted to have the 15-point guy as a Chancellor, but honestly, I think I'd rather have the 14 here. And he's not going to be happy, or the other guy's not going to be happy, but can't please everybody. And this is a pretty decent court or council with what I have to work with. As far as court members go, we're still looking for a physician. Antiquarian, I'm not really worried about. We don't have anything to, don't have any artifacts yet. Caravan master we can deal with when we need to caravan. Court tutor, not concerned about until we have young children. Master of the hunt, not doing any hunting right now. She'd be a good seneschal, and for that amount per month, it's probably worth it to increase our control growth. So let's appoint her. As far as bodyguards, we should probably grab some. That's also not a ton of gold to spend. And we have 3 options that are good. Hakon is that 30-point knight. These guys were, I think, 18 and 15 respectively. But because they're both brave, so they rank higher than him. I'm guessing he's probably going to be the first person that qualifies for an accolade. So let's make them the bodyguards, and he'll be the acclaimed knight. Because we're only going to have one for a while, I'm guessing. So these guys can be bodyguards instead. And I think the rest we'll have to wait on. I don't personally like going for the personal champion. I don't think it benefits you that much. I guess if you can find somebody that gives you a lot of prestige. Like 0.1 per month. I mean, that's a little bit. It's not a huge thing, and the dread is never really applicable for me because I don't accumulate a lot of it. Our character can handle his own in duels, and I think I'd rather have him fight the duels in most cases because we get more prestige for it. And then grand tournaments are so infrequent that I don't think that's even worth considering. So it's not the worst, especially at this cost. I think when we become feudal, it costs significantly more. So probably even worse choice then. But right now, not concerned. Okay, so that's it for our court. Last thing before we start declaring some wars is our knights. Let's station these units here. 8.1 in Rusa. So we'll start there. 4.2. And finally, I guess 2 is the best we can do now. So that we'll do that. Champions, force. This guy is a vassal, but he's not holding a court position, so that's fine. He can do that. My steward is too valuable, so I'm going to forbid him from being a knight. Flosi definitely can, especially now that he's not on the court. Spymaster, probably too valuable right now. You know what? I honestly don't care if he dies. There's obviously far better spy masters out there, so I don't know why I was pointing at this 10, but he's also a 10 in intrigue, so not super concerned if he bites the dust. Your only role is as a knight, so we're going to force you, and I don't mind if he does, but it looks like he's not good enough to rank currently. I'm going to do a little bit of customization on these guys. I like to make my knights very distinct looking, so it's very obvious that they're in that role before I assign them to other things. And for RP reasons, I like to make them look a little bit more culturally appropriate, and they look pretty generic right now. So I'll do the first one with you guys, and then I'm just going to make the rest look kind of similar, but with a little bit of randomization here and there. For this particular kind of cultural aesthetic, I kind of like the Iberian Muslim armor. I know it's obviously not the right culture, but it kind of reminds me of some of the artwork I've seen of like the Varangian adventurers and things like that. And so it's not like your typical Viking look, but since we're Vikings in a foreign culture that's kind of Eastern, I think it has a cool vibe to it. We just have to make sure the colors are more muted. Sometimes they spawn in like bright green and it looks really funny. But this Northern Lord's armor I'm just not a fan of. The like fur gauntlets look kind of cartoony almost, and overall the whole armor just looks really low quality. I not in terms of like protection, I mean like the mesh is not that well made compared to some of these others, so probably won't use that at all. If we're gonna do any of the northern stuff, it'll probably be this one. This is more like what Hollywood thinks Vikings looked like, which is like, you know, leather animal skins all over you and rough chainmail, blah blah blah. But the Norse actually were pretty good craftsmen. They had pretty good armor and very well made and colorful clothing. So yeah, I'm gonna go more this aesthetic here. I don't like these foot wrappings. I kind of like the generic Eastern warrior boots for most cultures. And then let's see, with the community flavor pack, there's some cool Viking helmets. I think since he's going to be our acclaimed knight, I think I like the Jarl helmet on him. But we have a few options. Let's go with that. And then underneath, it actually kind of looks cool as it is, but it cuts off his beard. Is there a different, like, that's kind of cool because you have the face flat folded down. But yeah, a lot of these kind of layer nicely with that. That's an interesting look as well. It clips perfectly. But that looks very Eastern now. Oh, these are interesting too. But those are full helmets. Let's do like, where was that first one? Let's do that. Okay. And how about like a fur cloak maybe? Just to make him look a little bit more Viking. I don't know. Maybe without it. Let's go with that. I kind of like that. Okay. So that's sort of the aesthetic I'm going for. I'm going to make the rest of the knights look similar. And then we'll come back and declare war. We're going to do a double war on the Vodi and Polotsk, I think. All right, so I think I got all the important ones. So we have Hakon, of course, who you saw. Heisinger. I don't know how to pronounce that, but got him taken care of too. Olvir, our bodyguard, and Arngrim, excuse me, our other bodyguard. I found these helmets, which I think are pretty cool. They have a little bit more, I don't know how to describe it, but they're very similar in style to this helmet, but they have like kind of this, it reminds me of like a, kind of like a German Prussian like little spike thing happening. And I kind of dig that for this particular like faction playthrough that we're going for. I kind of envision this becoming a little bit like Kislev from Warhammer Fantasy. Obviously, the factions that we're playing with were the inspiration for Kislev, but since we're taking this in a little bit of a fantasy direction, I kind of foresee something like that. Anywho, it's time for some wars now that our warriors are ready. So we're going to declare war on Chieftain Nyanza here for Vodi. Just conquer his county there for 50 prestige. And just to be efficient, we'll go for Chieftain Igor's county of Polotsk as well. Cool. So let's split our army up. We'll just raise them in the capital and then divide it. Ah, right. He married Ingrid. Cool. And she is now in charge of our churches, and she likes us, so she will endorse us. That's good. Come on. There we go. All right, that's our full force. Let's split it. 50-50 is probably fine. The half with the king will go north, and the other half will go south. It's a little bit easier fight down there. Are you the best we can do? Apparently. Commanding of their army. Is that you? Yeah, that's him. And the other guy that we couldn't command is up here. Okay, that brings up a good point. I'm running another mod that changes how vassals work in war. And effectively, let's speed things up a little bit. Every vassal is now by default an ally. And so if you declare war, more than likely your vassals will join. The exception to that would be if... Let's go get this guy before we start the siege. The exception would be if they're disloyal or if they don't like you for some reason. They might choose not to get involved. But by default, they will. And so that really changes the dynamic of warfare, especially when you're talking about much larger factions. It's now a much more dangerous proposition to attack these larger factions, because almost certainly if you attack a king, the majority of his dukes are going to get involved, and potentially some counts as well. So yeah, it really makes it harder to snowball. Not that we're going to do much of that here, but it's going to be effectively impossible with the way that mod changes things. The other thing that it does is, if you want to call in a vassal who is not automatically drawn into that war based on the Casus Belli, it's going to cost you prestige. So if I wanted to call Bjorn to back me up on this, I can. I have that option. But it's going to cost me 150 prestige per war he joins. And it'll be as high as 350 if I were to try to call in a king. So a king is, I think, 350. A jarl, which is equivalent to a duke, is 150. And then I think a count level would be 50. So it's expensive to rely on allies now. You can't just spam allies, which I think is a nice balancing mechanic, because they can be abused pretty heavily. Okay, let's see. Is she a decent physician? Says she's good. So I say let's do it. Yeah, she was the same one from before. Cool. Lock that in. Oh, they were raiding. Interesting. Okay, can we do the actual siege? Oh, these guys were raiding. My bad. And they got away from me over here. Let's move back. We need to defeat them before we start the siege, or we're just going to be chasing them constantly to defend our own lands. And, oh, that almost finished it. We were so close. Okay, well, we're going to have to besiege it, looks like. This one's almost done. Looks like they came back to try to run me off of it. Not going to happen. And that war is over, so we don't have to wait for a siege on that one. Let's just enforce it. He's not going to be a ruler of anything else, so hostages are irrelevant. There's nothing else he can do. Just call it. And now we are over our domain limit. This is, I think, a pretty decent territory for us to hold, though. So if we wanted to keep it, it's also de jure part of Home Guard. So if we wanted to keep it, what we could do is move you over to manage domain. She's not that skilled in stewardship, so it's not necessarily going to move the needle that much, but it might be enough to get us to 6. It's just unfortunate that we'll lose out on these as well. But let's see. Oh, it's actually not even enough. Okay, well, then we may as well just have her assist ruler generally. This also reminds me, there's probably a few things I should be having them do beside the default. Because so currently our capital and our other holdings in this duchy are Russian. Which means we're only able to build buildings that the Russian culture has unlocked, which right now is only 3. We have palisades, we have gathering halls, and we have sparring grounds. We cannot build any buildings that increase our tax gain. So our economy is completely stuck right now. The Norse, however, have coastal warriors, which basically gives bonuses to trade port buildings and lets you build them in tribal holdings, which is, I think, an entire era earlier than they'd normally be able to. Because most of our holdings are along this river, we're still able to build trade ports there because they're still coastal, technically. The issue is we need them to be Norse to do that. So we're going to promote culture in the capital in the hopes that we... Oh, God, 9 years. Oosh. Okay. So in 9 years, we'll be able to start building trade ports there. And then obviously, in the meantime, we'll continue working on hybridizing cultures because that is going to be the faster way to convert large swaths of territory. But we need to start doing something as a stopgap solution, and that's what this will be. Ideally, we would at least get Home Guard and Rusa, maybe Vodi as well. But if we could get those 3 with trade ports, we should be at least doing decently in terms of income. Okay, let's see. We're not being raided or anything, right? So this war is going to end any second. There it goes. Is there anybody that we can ransom before we call it? Let's see. Who's going to pay his ransom? Oh, he'll pay it himself. Let's wait till he has more gold then. And then this is the heir, I'm assuming? Yeah. Hold on, let me check our war score to make sure I'm not going to draw this out. Full occupation, 100%, so it doesn't matter if we ransom the kid. We may as well. Okay, we get our 50, and then we'll end this. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he was really good in terms of stewardship, so I'm going to pin him. And he hates us now, but maybe in a couple years he would be willing to join our court. It'd be nice to just give him his land back, because if given the option, I would have just vassalized him. But obviously I couldn't do that in this context. So what we'll have to do is find a suitable alternative to hand this to. And I'm going to go based on stewardship again. And if we want to increase our cultural acceptance with the Russian culture, giving, well, not you because you already have a holding, but giving another Russian character land would be ideal. And this guy's not bad. There's obviously these 2 Vepsians as well, but they're both lowborn. And if I was going to give a Vepsian territory, it probably should have been Beluzero and not this one. So I think Radislav here makes the most sense. Let me see. Oh, that's a big clan. Is that going to be a problem? He's a guest, so I'm guessing they probably don't hold a lot of territory, if any. Let's actually just do this real quick. Ruler, none. Landed, none. Unlanded. Aren't they all unlanded? Oh, unlanded rulers. Okay. Not ruler. Okay. So, yeah, I think they're all guests or, like, court members at best. Okay, cool. So you're the clan head. He's actually not terrible either. But this guy is, I think, the best of the bunch in terms of just raw stats. And stewardship being my focus, he's the best there as well. Content is also a nice vassal trait, so yeah, you're a pretty good choice. Grant title right here. And just that one? Yeah, perfect. There we go. Something else I should be doing is, that just reminded me, we want to be learning the Russian language. That's another way we can boost our cultural acceptance. We can raise a runestone. For what reason? 50 gold. Oh, we get to choose. Okay. What should it speak of? Do we want to... Do we care about this? This guy's kind of a nobody. Do I build it in? I can't even build it down there. Oh, but now I can't get out. Shoot. Okay, I'm locked in. Vodi, maybe? Why can't I choose to go back? Because it's not even letting me build it It has to be one of my holdings, it looks like. And, like, if we were going to build it here to commemorate our conquering of that territory, fine. But I don't want to build it in my capital. This wasn't... okay, Valdai maybe then, because it's kind of remote. We'll save the capital for something more important. Still above my domain limit. But I don't want to give this up if I can help it. Honestly, I'd rather give this up. I might have to do that. Let's see. What are our options there? This guy's not bad. Lustful, lazy, ambitious. Sorry, buddy. You just ruled yourself out. What about you? Honest, paranoid, ambitious again. And then we have impatient, fickle, and lazy. Not seeing any prime candidates here. I think you're related to somebody that we already landed, aren't you? Maybe not. Well, let's hold off. If it becomes a problem, I can give it to Helgi. But we can wait a little bit. So looking at the de jure coverage of our kingdom, I realized I can actually become a king right now. And that might up my domain limit. So what's it going to cost us? 250. I can easily afford that. We get a bunch of prestige and legitimacy. So yeah, we should definitely do this. That's going to unlock, I think, accolades, or at least one accolade, and the royal court. So there's a ton of benefit we get to doing this just for 250 gold. So do it. Yeah, let them see their new king. Let's hold court right now. I'm probably going to change this to blue just because I like the blue thing we had going on. Red seems kind of out of nowhere. I really like that you can see all the members of your court that you customize. So we've got our bodyguard here hanging out. Another one hiding behind our heir there. Not going to change any of this right now. I might need to later, but right now we don't have the gold. Actually, what's it going to cost me to up these? No cost up to 0.4. Ouch, that's kind of a big hit. I guess they're all going to cost me that. But monthly prestige, it'd be nice to get some more prestige. 1% of... I wish it wasn't a percentage point, because 1% of 2.2 is not a lot. What does this do for us? Guests can stay longer. Just all guest-related things. Servants are mostly scheme-related. I don't know. None of those jump out to me, so I'm going to wait. We do have some artifacts that we can display, though. Let's see what we've got. Oh, yeah, just the banners, right? I think they're going to be identical as well. So we'll do that. We can hold court for the first time. Let's do that for 50. See what people have to say to us. My guest, Taro, approaches my throne with a smirk on his face and bows deeply. Who is this? Okay, he's not a bad knight. Greetings, Your Majesty. During my recent trip to the chiefdom of Jersica, I learned some fascinating tidbits about several of Chieftain Narvate's subjects. I'd be happy to share these with you for a price. I don't need secrets about people in other courts, if I'm being honest. I could say nobody extorts me in front of my own court. Or, begone rumor monger. Yeah, I don't need that. He's wandering. Would he join us, though? Because not a bad night. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, a peasant woman stands before me, informing the court of her plea. The recent war took a toll on the countryside, and we're not sure who the culprit was, but they looted an important cultural site to us Russians from Novgorod. Please, we beseech you, spare some of your resources so we can see it restored. The Peasant ends a request with a clumsy bow, a clear indicator of their lowborn status. This is actually the best thing we could have hoped for. This, I believe, yeah, I was going to say, I think it'll give us a good bit of cultural acceptance, and that's 10%. That's half of what we need right there for 50 gold. So I don't care what these do unless they're more cultural acceptance. No, minus 20 or displeased peasants. Yeah, we're going to do this one. You shall have the necessary funds for the restoration. They're hanging us, hounding us. We could keep order, my lord. Please, we can organize ourselves without all the death. A peasant man from the chiefdom of Polotsk, an area plagued by unrest, held by my vassal chieftain Radislav, assured me that control can be restored without undue bloodshed. Sorry, I'm not illiterate. My microphone is just blocking some of the text. It's right in my face. So we can say, curious idea, let's try it. Radislav will like me even less than he does. But the control level will improve. Or we can say what we need is excessive bloodshed. Popular opinion is going to go down. Do I really care about that, though? Because it's not my land. Or we can say, here, do what you can with this. We give him a bit of gold, and the county control level in there increases by 5. Well, I don't want to upset this guy. He's my marshal after all, and I think he's already not the most fond of us. Oh, this is the other guy. Okay, not who I was thinking. I mean, I don't want to upset him either. 5 gold is nothing. Let's do it. As the last petitioners depart, various courtiers follow them out of the room, having business to attend to elsewhere. Others remain talking amongst themselves about the recent proceedings. Soon the ceremonial formality of the proceedings is dropped away entirely, with the hum and bustle of normal courtly life taking its place. So we're done. We gain some grandeur and some legitimacy. Nice. Cool. So we're finally a king. We have a court. That means we should also have... Oh, yeah, we got 2 slots. And it did up my domain limit. So that solved several problems for us. We have 1 accolade. Let's see who's the best suited. I really like Valiant because it adds plus 10% to the whole army's damage as long as that knight is present. So that is huge, and it scales up to 30%. So anybody that has that, I'm on board. Let's see, Contender, I think is too situational. It's good if you're doing a lot of tournaments. The issue I find is that, at least in this particular bookmark, 867, excuse me, tournaments are really, really rare. And I certainly do not have the economy to be sponsoring them frequently, so this is just not going to apply frequently enough to matter. Marauder gives us prestige based on dread, but I don't accumulate dread very often. Though uncontrolled territory attacker advantage plus 2 is kind of nice. That means any territory that isn't ours that we attack into, we're going to gain that little bonus. And that scales up to 5. Idealist is going to boost court vassal opinions. So that's kind of nice. Also, it looks like in the final rank, negotiating a white peace provides prestige. And then finally, a thug, we gain dread from tyranny. Probably not going to need that. Marauder seems good. Let's do, well, hold on. What does Manipulator do? That I'm not familiar with. Oh, Intrigue Schemes. At the final rank, it gives us plus 2 Intrigue and plus 20 Natural Dread. Honestly, that's not bad. That's actually pretty good. So the other option is like Disciplinarian. I kind of like that for the levy reinforcement rate. The levy maintenance at the final tier is also really nice. And then hostile county attrition during raids is also pretty good. So that overall, that one's really solid. But I was planning on making Hakon the choice. So we definitely want Valiant. And then like Marauder's not terrible. I guess we'll go with him first, and then when we unlock another one, I do like Disciplinarian and Manipulator. Those are both good. Yeah, I'm fine with the attacker advantage. We'll probably use, even though it's not that big of a bonus, that will probably get the most use out of anything here that we have the option of. Other than, of course, the army damage, which is going to be useful all the time. Champion Without Fear. I don't love that name. Feel free to suggest name in the comments, and I'll replace these as we go along. But for now, that's fine. And it looks like we do have people that can follow up. So the way this works, if you're not familiar, is you create the title based on somebody's skills, and if somebody else has the skills that also line up with it, they can be a successor. And so when this person dies, this title doesn't go away. We just spend a bit of glory to pass it on to the next person. But if he died without a successor, then this accolade would just be retired, and we'd lose all the glory that we'd accumulated. So you definitely want successors. So I've already changed the color of our heraldry for this kingdom. I'm also going to change the name. Rurikid, I think, was the... I'm trying to remember. I read up a little bit on this particular part of history before starting this. I think it was used either by the Norse to refer to this kind of land here, or the people in it. I might use that term as a name for like our intermediate culture, because if we merge with the Russians, then we should probably call it the Rus culture. But if we end up merging with like the Lithuanians or the Vespians first, we can probably use this as a placeholder name. I don't love it as a kingdom name, though. I certainly don't want to be saying it all the time. So I'm going to go back to Holmgard for this. We'll be the Kingdom of Holmgard. It's just a cooler name, in my opinion. And since we're borrowing our heraldry from the duchy, we may as well, right? Okay, so where does that leave us? What is next? We have some small factions on our borders still. So the Latgalians here, who again would be a good hybridization candidate because they have forest wardens and sacred groves. This one over here, we would need to... Oh, we can actually do the subjugation war if we wanted to. We only get one of these per lifetime, and it's very expensive, but it's going to let us gobble up more territory than we normally could. Obviously, a county's just going to require us to chip away bit by bit. And then even the duchy one isn't going to get all of it. We also need to be a tier higher in prestige to even consider it as well. So this would get us where we want to go, but at the cost of basically all our prestige. So it's maybe not worth doing just yet. What about up here? Same deal, though. I think a duchy, yeah, that would get all of it. Or again, we could just start chipping away. I'm kind of inclined to say that we go after some of these small ones. And you hold... How many actual holdings is that? It's actually quite a few. So that might be worthwhile to subjugate because it's probably like 3 duchies. But we again, I don't want to spend it all yet. But as we get later on and we have a lot more prestige to work with, we'll definitely consider it. I'm still trying to figure out the extent of the borders I want to push for here. I don't want to just do a bunch of map painting. I want to keep it kind of reasonable. So we'll play a little bit wide, and then once we're happy with the width of our faction, we'll start playing a little bit taller. Obviously, playing tall right now is pointless because I can't even build economy buildings. But yeah, I think taking little pieces here and there makes the most sense right now. So let's conquer this county. And can maybe do the same thing we did before where we'll do 2 at once. Oh, it won't let me do it. Wonder why. Why can't we conquer him? Do we just not share enough border, maybe? Oh, it might not be counting it because of the river. So we'd have to take, like, Toropets or something. Or Tver? Is that the T? Yeah. Okay, so we're technically not adjacent to this guy yet. That's alright. To speed this along, I'm going to use my whole army, but it's probably not necessary. But I find that the amount of money that I would save from using a smaller force is usually offset by the longer duration for which they take to resolve the conflict. So it's usually, in my opinion anyways, better to just raise them all, take care of this quickly, and then move on. So there's our victory. Oh, inspired person? What are they doing? Forge a goblet. How about like a weapon or a crown or something, man? I don't really need a damn goblet. What's it going to cost me? 61. He's inspired. I wish there was something that set apart these artifact makers a little more. Like something, some kind of trait that they could accumulate that gave some indication as to their vocation, because right now I would not guess that this guy is a metalsmith. If anything, he seems to be a fighter. Do I pay 61 gold for an artifact if it's just a goblet? I'm going to say probably no. Smith inspirations are based on stewardship, prowess, and diplomacy. Interesting. Well, his stewardship's not great, so I don't think it's going to be that high quality anyways. No, I want a better artifact than a goblet. Okay, we just want a big fight there. We're up to 53. And all of that was from that battle. Looks like we potentially do have some raiders coming in, so we'll want to deal with that as quickly as we can if that is the case. Oh, nice. Did we rank up? I think we ranked up. Wow, where are they getting all these men from? Did they have a bunch of allies, maybe? That was a big battle. Well, in any case, the siege is going to be over, and we just won. We did capture the heir, but that is not going to matter if we ransom him. At least not in terms of the war score, so let's do that. This guy's still here. Can he afford it yet? No. Whatever, I'll take a hook. Get out of here. Alright, how much for the kid? 42 out of 50. Yeah, I'm not going to wait. Okay, there we go. Time to end the war. Were you any good? No, he wasn't. Cool. And do I need to worry about raiders? Are you trying to raid me right now? I think they might be. So what we should probably do is jump in the river here. It's going to cost me 7 gold, but I should be able to get out here very quickly. Is that really the fastest route? I would think it'd be faster to take the river. Yeah, he is raiding me. Okay. I thought as much. Oh, it's our neighbor too. Well, we're going to get some revenge then. He thought better of it. He's already moving. Yeah, being a Viking in this territory is kind of overpowered because we can traverse it so quickly compared to the Finnic groups who cannot sail in rivers. They're probably faster on land though, from what I can tell. Oh, I have to pay gold again. Damn it. Wait. Don't do that. Go back this way. Oh, it's too late. Okay, well, go here. We need to be on our territory for me to set them to a raiding stance. So let's do that. And then we're going to go attack their capital. Oh, you bastards. Okay, good. The vassal caught him. Oh, but the vassal's losing. That's not good. Oh, no, he won. That was weird. Okay. The vassal defended his territory. That's what I like to see. We're not raiding, though. Why is that? A sensual proposal. Wherever I go, my court physician Rurikid is sure to follow. That look in her eyes, the words on her lips, I know exactly what she's after. Might become our lover. Distraction for tonight, but nothing more. Can end her scheme. Do we want a bastard? Sure, distraction for tonight. Why not? Whatever. Okay. Yeah, our rating is not working. I don't understand. Why not? Do they just not have anything to raid? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay. Yeah, we're having a bastard, all right. It's okay. As long as they're not in the line of inheritance, it doesn't matter. All right, cool. Let's disband our forces here. All right, so I think the last thing we'll do today is hand out this territory that we just conquered here. Now, I may want to merge with this culture. Oh, that's a faith. I clicked on the wrong thing. It was this one here. Nope. I almost did it again. The Latgalian culture. We're at 0% though, so it might make more sense to put somebody who's Lithuanian there and hope that it converts to Lithuanian, because we already have a head start with them. So let me see what our options are. Obviously, stewardship is still a consideration as well. Or we could roll the dice on just a local and see what we get. I'm not seeing a lot of prime candidates here. What we might be better off doing if we want to find somebody specific is going to the character finder here. And we can say somebody who's not a ruler. I don't care about their vassal stance, to be honest, but they should be an adult. They will need to be male. Marital status is irrelevant. We'll find them a wife if they don't have one. They probably should not be imprisoned. They'll just make this more complicated. Let's see. Religion. I'm not going to worry about that. Culture. I can only sort by my own, so that's kind of unfortunate. That's okay. There's not going to be that many to choose from in our diplomatic range, so maybe we should sort this by stewardship now. So it's the same three that keep coming up. This guy again without his helmet now. I would have thought we'd see more Estonian, Latvian, more of the general like Baltic state cultures now that we have territory in that area, but it doesn't look like it. In fact, I didn't see a single one. But it doesn't really make sense to put somebody Vepsi in there at all. So maybe I roll the dice on... Yeah, I'm kind of curious what we'll get if we choose this. Or maybe what I should be doing is like... You're Lithuanian, right? You have court members. Not terrible. Let's see. Would you join my court? No. I'm going to do a little bit of this just to see if I can snipe a decent character that will join us. I'm not having any luck, so I'm just going to grant this to a local. See what we get. Interesting. So we got a female character, and she's pretty good. The fact that she's content is nice as well. But I do find it interesting that we got a female character, because I would not be able to grant land to a female character if I manually tried to choose them. So it's kind of interesting that the random character can be one. But I'm pretty happy with the result, so that worked out. The main issue is, again, that we just don't have a lot of cultural acceptance with this particular group. Though it looked like maybe we got 3% from me giving her that land. Because we certainly didn't have any before. I think it was 0. Recent changes. Yeah, chiefdom granted to a ruler of the Latgalian culture. So if I conquer 1, 2, 3... well, those are Estonian. I think the Latgalian ones are mostly here. That's Estonian as well. Yeah, we could give that to somebody Latgalian. So yeah, if we conquer this stuff and start handing it out, it would take us exactly 6 more holdings to be able to merge culture. So that is a viable strategy. We could fight this guy. The duchy's a little bit ways off, but I mean, even if we only took 1 county at a time, we could start chipping away at these factions, accumulating their territory, handing it out to Latgalians, and that would get us where we want to go eventually. Then, of course, there's still the Russian issue, but that one's going to be a little bit more difficult to solve. I actually haven't checked where we stand with them right now. We're at 9%. So the decision at court got us a +10, but the holdings are only giving us 0.5%. Is that like a diminishing returns thing? Not sure why we're getting 3% for one and 0.5 for the other. I mean, that... Did we declare war on a Russian character? I suppose we did, yeah. We got to be careful about that. I wasn't checking. I mean, obviously this guy was Russian. We declared war on him. This one was not. I'm not sure what the third one was. This guy was not. So what other Russian characters did we declare war on? I honestly can't think of any. But it says we did it 3 times. So I'll have to be more cautious, obviously. But the Latgalians would be a good stopgap because we can get the Forest Wardens, which will help us a lot. And, of course, we're still working on converting this, so it's only a matter of time before at least our capital is our own culture and we can start building specific buildings. I'll, again, probably convert Rusa and maybe Vodi as well, just so I have a little core of provinces where I can start improving our economy. The ones over here are secondary, because I am going to need to increase our development at some point too. It's currently 0. The trade ports will help with that, but obviously having a steward focused on it too would go a long way. And that'll also help with the building stuff too. So probably worth doing sooner than later. Anyways, let's leave it there. I'm starting to lose my voice. Not used to speaking for this long. It's been a long time, obviously. Hopefully you guys are excited that we're back and playing some Crusader Kings. I know this channel was kind of primarily a RimWorld channel for a little while. Probably go back to RimWorld at some point. I got a little bit burnt out on it, honestly, and also the modding for that is such a absolute headache all the time to keep things stable, and version tracking and all that. It's just a nightmare. Not to say that we don't potentially have issues here as well. We'll see, certainly, but I'm running a much tighter mod list. I find myself needing a lot fewer mods for this game. But, you know, that certainly could change. If you have any suggestions for other potential Crusader King campaigns, I'd love to hear them too. I kind of want to dip into... Now that I've found this fantasy mod, I think it'd be fun to kind of revisit like the King Arthur mythos. Because I think Merlin is a character in this mod. So we could have like a legit Merlin wizard walking around in our Dark Ages Britannia with some other cool mechanics too. Maybe some dark wizards that we have to fight. And there's other cool scenarios too, obviously. And then, of course, we could revisit Elder Kings as well. There is an Elder Kings 2 for Crusader Kings 3. And it's even, from what I've seen, I've played it very briefly just to check it out. It is even more fleshed out than Crusader Kings 2's version, at least as far as I could tell. There's a lot of really cool visual things that they've added. in terms of like character customization and whatnot. And there's sub mods as well that let you do dungeon delving and things like that. So it seems pretty substantial. I think we could spend a lot of time there. Anywho, thank you so much for watching. I had a great time playing some Crusader Kings 3 with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you back here for the next episode.